Hey, beautiful people, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Today's show, everything in Minnesota is going crazy right now. You got the Lynx. You got Cat leaving town. I mean, we're going to have to say our farewells to Cat, but the Minnesota Vikings are 4-0. We got to talk about that. Also, I'm going to be on campus. I'm getting Ethan Robinson, Gophers cornerback. He's new to the team, but he's already making plays. We're going to have all that and much more coming up next on the Ron Johnson Show.
Locked On Sports Minnesota podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. And it starts now.
Hey, beautiful people, it's Tuesday, and you know what time it is. It's time for the Ron Johnson Show. It's probably game time too, but it's time for the Ron Johnson Show, people. I'm Ron Johnson, your host. This is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota, and we are bringing you all the top sports. We're bringing you the petty news as well because we love to get petty. But on today's show, I got to let everybody know, it's brought to you by FanDuel. Yes, FanDuel, people. Place your $5 bet. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bet. How's that work? You bet $5. All of a sudden, after that first $5 bet, boom, you'll see $200 pop into your account. Boom, put that $200 on something. Boom, go out and win. Now you got $400. $200 of is yours. $200 is FanDuel's. Keep rolling with the house money. It's your pot. Keep betting. Keep betting. Why? Because it's their money, not yours, and you can add on to what you can take home. And here's what I say. Every Friday, we give you our FanDuel locks. We'll let you know Friday what our numbers are, what our records are, so that way you know who to listen to and who not listen to make sure you can double up, get more money, and get more money. But again, I'm Ron Johnson. This is Locked On Sports Minnesota. Remember, that's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, as I said, we're gonna talk about Gophers today. We're gonna talk about the Vikings. We also have to talk about Karl-Anthony Towns. It's tough. He did get traded. I don't even know if it's official. So as I bring my producer to the show, Sam Extra, my co-host, before we jump into Vikings Packers, Sam, because I know we got Karl-Anthony Towns talking. Was it confirmed? Like I know Shams and everybody did, but like, is it do we even have the verbiage in the official? Like, is it officially done?
It is not officially done. There's a lot of red tape, I think, with this trade. There's also a third team involved that is complicating matters because some cash is getting sent to the Hornets, maybe it was, and there's some other players in the trade.
Think about
too,
that.
so.
It's not even done yet, and they're already like the reporters are asking the New York Knicks, "What do you think about Karl?" They're like, "Karl who?" Like, one, it's not done, so they were probably told not to even talk about it. But could you imagine if something goes bad, like Karl-Anthony Towns has a broken finger,
like a failed physical,
right? And all of a sudden they're like, no, you're gonna stay with the Timberwolves. Can you imagine like him coming back? That's like, we tried to get rid of you and it didn't work. But you know what? We'll talk about that in the next segment. I don't want to spend too much time on Cap because we have to talk about what's the front of the mind. The Packers did not win. And the Vikings are 4-0, Sam. And Sam, I started the season off and I said on Vikings.com, because the Vikings told me, like, be honest. Like, don't be a homer. Don't come on here and say we're going to be undefeated. You can't find the first loss. We know Luke Inman loves to do that. The Vikings said, no, we don't want that because we get enough of that. We want you. We're hiring you to be honest. Be honest with what you think right now. And I said, okay. Took me like a week-ish. I started looking at all the teams, the quarterback situations, the new players. And I apologize to Andrew Van Ginkel. I was not aware of your game. I did not realize how cerebral he was. He makes that book. I knew Jonathan Gennard and Blake Cashman were good. Of course, I knew Blake Cashman was good. Come on now, he's a Gopher. But I did not know Andrew Van Ginkel would be like the triangle of the defensive holy trinity of Gennard, Van Ginkel, to Cashman. It's like the trinity of defensive additions.
I like that.
I like that. Yeah, the trinity. You got the two ends. You got the guy in the middle. They've come in, and then right in the middle of that trinity, who do you have? Ivan Pace. Right now is Grugier Hill, though. He's killing it. He was the number 1 PFF defensive player this week for the Vikings defense. And all he does is catch interceptions. 2 weeks in a row, he has a pick. So when you think about that, with Andrew Van Ginkel, Jonathan Gennard, and Blake Cashman, I was not aware of how well that trinity will work on defense, and it's killing it. And then you move on. And you look at this offense. And I knew Sam Darnold was good because he was a number 3 overall pick. I'm like, look, I don't care what has happened. I think like Baker Mayfield clearly just had to find the right coach and right situation. Jared Goff had to find the right coach, right situation. Dude went 18 for 18 last night. I mean, so stupid that he can't get the record because he didn't throw 20 passes. That's dumb. We created that rule. We're humans. Change that rule. That's stupid. But when you look at that, I didn't think they would do that against the Texans and the 49ers. The Packers was my toss-up, so I had them like 2-3 or 3-2. I said 2-2 for sure because I knew the Jets is a win. Well, I don't know. We'll see. But I knew the Jets was a win. I knew the Giants was a win on the bookends. I thought the Texans and the 49ers for sure was a loss, and then that Packers one was a toss-up for me, Sam. But did you expect, was it 28-0 at one point of the Packers? What was your thoughts when you saw that?
It could not have gone any better in that first half. All the calls were going the Vikings' way. The Packers' kicks were going wide to the upright. Third downs were a clinic for the Vikings on both sides of the ball. And I think Jordan Love was skittish, Ron. I thought he was. Yeah. I thought he was trying really, really hard not to get hit. And he was just getting rid of the ball. And there might be a Packer at the receiving end. There might be a Viking at the receiving end. But I think they took advantage of a skittish Jordan Love, and everything went their way. And then, Ron, the universe kind of balanced out in the second half. Fortunately, the Vikings lead was just big enough, but a 28-0 lead. And I think maybe Ben Gessling tweeted, it was, I think, the biggest lead they've ever held at Lambeau Field before. 28 points might have been a record. Just an astounding first half. And then it all kind of went pear-shaped after the muff punt. But we'll take the 28-0 lead. Let's build those every game. And then I think we'll do pretty well.
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine if Jalen Nailor, and again, I'm glad it happened because the Vikings needed a kick in the butt. They were blowing people out. You know, it felt too like celebration, champagne. We had Dwayne Clemens on, and think about how he felt at 15-1, and how they were saying, yeah, we're going to win this. We're going to the Super Bowl. So every once in a while, you do need that kick in the pants. And so maybe even that win, which is the best way to get a kick in the pants, is to win and get a kick in the pants. Jalen Nailor probably was just high on like, man, we're killing these guys. And once it starts going over your head, it's in the sun, you misjudged it. At some point, your brain needs to say, just run away from this. Just run away. Even if you have to invalid fair catch and Cooper DeJean the bit, just run away from it. Like, get away from the ball. Peter, poison, whatever you got to say. Get away. Just run away from it. Because the way it was sailing and how big of a kick it was, it's probably going to bounce into the end zone. Because there was nobody within like 10 yards of Jalen Nailor. It was so bad, though, that when he missed, didn't he fall? Like he kind of like lost his balance too or something?
Yeah, like I've been the infielder in baseball where the pop fly just keeps sailing and you're kind of backpedaling. And it's pretty easy just to fall over at that point because you're so disoriented and you're off balance. And I bet he just wanted to crawl into a hole at that point. Like that's the worst thing that you can do as a punt returner. I know he wasn't the starter. He was in pinch hit duty for Powell, but on a windy day, stay away, man. You're not going to do any. The Vikings were going to kneel down. They were going to catch the punt and kneel down. That's all they had to do. No reason to catch that ball.
Right. And that's the whole point. Like back, like just, yeah, exactly. Just get out of the way. Let it bounce. Because then think about this. Now the Vikings get the ball. Who got it out of the half? Was it the Vikings or the Packers got it out of the half?
The Packers got it out of the half and they went 3 and out.
So you think about that. If Jalen Nailor doesn't do that, Vikings probably get it at the 20. Kevin O'Connell might still be in attack mode. Like he might say, let's really just put our foot on their throat and let's go put up 35 points, if not 31, and get a field goal. 31-0 going in a half. Packers come out flat, 3 and out. And then all of a sudden now the Vikings take over. Now we'll say this, coming out of the half, the third quarter, I don't know if people knew this. Do you know what the score of the third quarter was?
Nobody scored in the third quarter.
Correct. So 0-0 in the third quarter. A lot of people, because the second half felt bad, but it was still a good third quarter for the Vikings defense. Not the offense. The offense, it was a little bit like Kevin O'Connell said. We got lulled to sleep a little bit. Maybe we might have drank too much Kool-Aid in the locker room, talking about ourselves. Maybe players were celebrating, talking about what they're doing tonight when they get home to Minnesota. But the third quarter was defensive like juggernaut or offensive ineptitude. Either way, nobody scored. Fourth quarter was a 22-3 deal because the Packers had 7 already from the first half, 22-3 in the second half, and the fourth quarter alone, 22 points in the fourth quarter. That's where, if you think about what it should have been, which is 31-0 going in a half, 3 and out, Vikings probably have a little bit more of like the Packers gave up. And maybe Malik Willis comes in. Maybe they don't even bring Jordan Love back out. Maybe they come out second half. They're like, look,
you're right.
This doesn't work. We're down 31-0. Let's keep Jordan Love healthy. Let's move on to next week because this one's over. Let's put the kids to bed. Let's run the ball. But here's the thing that I thought about too. Maybe Malik Willis would have come in and had some third quarter success. And maybe the Packers do win that game because Malik Willis, and I gave that stat before on our show, when the first week 1, and I haven't done week 2 now to kind of see if this is a Jordan Love at quarterback situation, but I think it is. Week 1, they had the, I think, 22nd least amount of runs. The 22nd least amount of runs, and they had the most. They had like 94 plays. They had ran the most plays. In weeks 2 and 3, they were like right around 167 plays. They had the most runs, the least amount of passes, and we know that is by design with Malik Willis versus Jordan Love. But I wonder what that looked like. And so when you see that, when you see a team that can run the ball like crazy with one quarterback and then throw the ball like crazy with another, I assume we were going to see both quarterbacks, and we didn't. But at the end of the day, the Vikings did what they had to do, Sam. And here's where I'm gonna go again with an unsung hero group, because we bought this up on the postcast. For those that know, after every Vikings and Gophers game, make sure you guys subscribe on YouTube to Locked On Sports Minnesota, because you'll get the update as soon as we go live for the postcast. We do a post game show after every Vikings and Gophers game. Gophers is gonna be a late one, back-to-back weeks. UCLA is 8 p.m. USC is 6:30 p.m. So it's gonna be some late ones. So I'll be up. I might have an old fashioned. It's gonna be late. But here's where we go. I got to probably have some coffee first, because 8 p.m. kickoff in Minnesota. That means game's not over till 11:30. So hopefully, guys, you stay up with us, because then I got.
I'll make you an espresso old fashioned. That's one of our favorite drinks around the Extra House. Espresso old fashioned.
An espresso old fashioned. Okay, because I'm gonna need some type of boost, because then I got to turn around and get up on Sunday to do the Vikings. So. And that's the Vikings. So UCLA is this week. So that's the Vikings bye week. So at least it's the Vikings bye week show. Because this week I got to be up at 7. No, I got to be up at 6 a.m. because the show's at 7 a.m. and I got to be in Eagan. So I got to get up at like 5:50. Because I time myself. It usually takes like 15 minutes to get dressed. Brush my teeth, get out the door, grab some tea or something, because it's gonna be early. So I'm gonna have to grab. It's gonna be chilly out, so I'm gonna have to grab some tea. But yeah, I got it 7 a.m. But yeah, 8 p.m. Gophers kickoff, 6:30 p.m. USC kickoff, postcast, people. But anyway, speaking of the postcast, our take was, who were some unsung heroes? And we're going to talk about that real quick. Sam, I got to go with the offensive line. Like, even watching it back now, seeing Baldy's, I also saw Baldy's breakdown about how beautiful the pocket was for Sam Darnold, how much time he had. This offensive line is not getting enough credit of how they're working well together. And I don't know if that's the offensive line coach. I don't know if that's Kevin O'Connell's play calling. But this offensive line, Sam, people were worried about Ed Ingram. Nobody's talking about Ed Ingram in a bad way. He's doing a great job, and he has a tough week coming up with the Jets. Let's be real. And this is going to be the test of this offensive line. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, who's impressed me is Blake Brandel. I feel like Blake Brandel was the guy that they put an incredible amount of faith in, who's never been a full-time starter. They just said, you're going to be our left guard. And we wondered if Dalton Risner would replace him, and he never did. And obviously he got hurt, but Brandel's been so solid that he's answered that big question. I think Bradbury's been fairly good. He's been an average center. He hasn't been a liability. Ingram's been a little up and down, but for the most part, that offensive line has been more good than bad this year. And that was one of the big question marks, was that interior, right? Because we love O'Neal, we love Darisaw. We didn't know about the interior. And I think they've comported themselves pretty nicely so far this season. But Brandel has been, I would say, well above average. He's been like a top 20 guard in the league so far, which is just a huge lift for an offensive line that's been kind of maligned over the years.
Yeah, and again, the guards. We talked about Dalton Reisner. Everybody's like, is Dalton Reisner going to play? What's the plan with him? And they haven't needed him. Like, I think Dalton Reisner becomes a true backup right now. Like, I don't see any reason. There's no reason to change this offensive line. I love Dalton Reisner. I love his aggressiveness. I think if you do bring Dalton Reisner in, because we know Blake Brandel can play tackle as well. He's a swing tackle. If I'm doing that, it's going to be in some type of massive package, like big package where I put Reisner at the left guard and I put Brandel at the tight end, and then also still go with Josh Oliver. Ed Oliver, I know that name though. I think he played something too.
Like a Bills defensive tackle or defensive end, I think.
Maybe something like that. But Josh Oliver, and I'm gonna go with my tight ends, and then my only receiver, just in case they get dirty and try to do something, is Justin Jefferson. I'm leaving Justin Jefferson in the game just in case. Hopefully they'd have TJ Hockenson by the time this comes to fruition. But I'd love to see Dalton Reisner come in at guard and Blake Brandel go to tight end, and then you go with the big, because remember they used to do that with number 69. Used to check in as the
Rashad Hill.
He used to check in as the eligible tackle. He would be the additional tight end. He's 69 is eligible. We know that from the Lions. He's eligible. Just like the Lions did with number 71, I think it was, when they've tried to fake out the Cowboys and they got it wrong. I'd love to see that because I think Dalton Reisner deserves a chance to get some time, but he's not better. He's not going to be like, it's not going to be a better situation than what they have right now because these guys are working on all cylinders. But Vikings are 4-0. They now head to play the Jets. Really quick, Sam. Jets, Vikings. I think this is a Vikings win overseas because they've been undefeated over there so far. Quick before we get out of here, I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers and the way the Denver Broncos handled Aaron Rodgers and the false starts. I feel like this is when, and Aaron Rodgers having the towel over his face. I feel like this is the time where the Jets and Aaron Rodgers teams, even the Packers, they fall into that weird like 2 to 3 game slump because Aaron Rodgers has a bad attitude. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So the Jets are coming off their worst performance of the season. And sometimes when you catch a team coming off their worst, especially if it's Rodgers, you might expect a bit of a bounce back.
Yeah.
The other thing with Rodgers, I don't think you can anticipate him giving you any gift-wrapped interceptions the way the Vikings have gotten this season, because they've had 2 or more in every game, if I'm not mistaken. Aaron Rodgers does not throw picks. He's thrown 1 this year. So I think if you want to turn him over, you got to strip the ball. You got to peanut punch it out. Mm-hmm. You might not get any interceptions. You might not be able to dominate the take give the way you have. So you're going to have to be really clean on offense. Sam Darnold can't give the ball away either. I think you got to play a really clean offensive game, be sound defensively, because do you still worry about Rodgers? Like, we know who Rodgers can be. I still think that he has that in him, and he'll see those purple jerseys and say, like, something will trigger in his head and maybe send him back to vintage Rodgers. That's what worries me.
Yeah, no, I think Aaron Rodgers is still legit. I just don't. The one thing that he doesn't have that he used to have is that speed. Like, you can tell he's a little bit slower. He's not as quick to get out the pocket and want to run for 30, 40 yards. I think Sam Darnold will outrush Aaron Rodgers in this game. That's going to be my bold prediction. I'm kind of giving away. I might change it, but right now I'm leaning towards Aaron Rodgers gets outrushed by Sam Darnold. Because normally Aaron Rodgers will give you 30 to 40 yards because he's, if you give him a lane, he takes it and he puts the belt on. I haven't seen that this year. I mean, I haven't watched a lot of Jets games, but I haven't seen a lot of Jets highlights with Aaron Rodgers putting the belt on and, I own you, I'm the mayor or whatever. And, so I just feel like Aaron Rodgers can still throw the ball. He can still sling. He still has some weapons. But I think when there's trouble, where there's smoke, there's fire. And people are waiting for him to implode on his team the way he always does. And we'll see. He's not happy with that Broncos outcome. But coming up next, we got to talk about Cat. Cat's no longer in town. Not officially. Julius Randle's coming to town. Let's call him Debo. He's a bully. And we'll talk about all that much more coming up next. But we got a short pause, and we have a word from our sponsors.
We are brought to you today by FanDuel. That's where we get our FanDuel locks every Friday. That's where you could have bet the Vikings every week and cashed. And you can also get a big return at America's #1 sportsbook. If you're a new customer and you want to put $5 down, win or lose, you will get $200 in bonus bets. That's guaranteed money from FanDuel that you can spread around all the lines, all the leagues, the future bets, the over-unders, the spreads, the money lines. You've got hundreds of wagering options at FanDuel. So when you get that hunch, odds are there's a bet for it at FanDuel. You can also bet live on FanDuel as well. That's FanDuel.com or the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Make every moment more at America's #1 sportsbook. Vikings favored in London by 2.5. All you need is them to win by a field goal against the Jets at FanDuel. Bet 5, get 200.
Well, Sam, we got to talk about this. Cat, we saw the trade. Basically, it's Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo for Karl-Anthony Towns. And I said this before. You guys know this on the basketball party time and time again. We talked about it, and I was the one that said, I want to trade Cat. I've always wanted to trade Cat, and not because he's a bad player. He's a great player. I wasn't a fan of some of the mistakes. Now, like, could he go out and give you 30, 40 points on some nights? Yeah. But he also made way too many mistakes when it was like key moments, like on a run. Anthony Edwards is dueling it. You got Mike Conley hitting threes because they're kicking it out to him. You got Jay McDaniel slashing and making plays. You got Nas Reed knocking down 4 or 5 threes. And then in that moment, you're like, Cat, just stay in the shadows. Just stay in the shadows. Just let the game flow. And then you see Cat get the ball, and he runs full speed through the lane like he's Adrian Peterson in 2005 or 2007. I don't remember the year, but running through people. Runs guy over, charge. And then, what were you talking about? It's not a charge. Momentum slows down. Come back down again. Here comes Cat again. Knocks him down. And it's just like, at what point do you realize they were cooking without you doing that? Now, knocking down three, knock down jumper, spin move, lay it up, fillet. Yeah, that's the Cat I want to see. Play within the moment. And so could they do without him? I think so, because if you look at the times he was hurt, they still were, winning games. You add Julius Randle, who's a beast. Now, Julius Randle and Gobert are both kind of post guys. So I don't know if that opens up the lane per se, but I could see them having Gobert out and Julius Randle in with Nas Reed, Jay McDaniels, Dante DiVincenzo, and then what's his name? Anthony Edwards. Like, that could be a group that runs together. You also then throw in those younger guards in that package as well. Dante's on the bench with Anthony Edwards, or the younger guards on the game with DiVincenzo. So there's some things they can do with what they just got. I just wasn't a super fan of Gobert and Cat. I just never really saw it. The defense we needed out of Rudy weren't getting. So I was down with trading either, but I don't think you get anything for Rudy. And I think that was the problem. Right. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Man, complicated emotions. I like most, had a little bit of an attachment to Cat. 9 years here, stuck with us through thick and thin, provided some really cool moments. He was huge in the Denver series to get to the Western Conference Finals. So I'm grateful for who he was, what he represented. Flip Saunders, first round pick. He was all in with the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I feel badly that it ended this way. I think ultimately this is a money move, Ron. I mean, this is you're in salary cap hell, luxury tax hell, going to spend $100 million in taxes next year. So this provides relief in the future. You probably get 1 year of Randle, and then you are out from under that situation. Yeah. DiVincenzo is the big piece here, Ron. This is a sharp shooting, high volume 3-point shooter in his prime that you've got cheap for the next 3 years. That's an awesome asset. Randle this year is going to be interesting. He's not a 3-point shooter like Cat. I assume he's your starter. I mean, I think that Nas, maybe you extend Nas and he's your starter starting next year. But I think Randle's your guy this year. I don't know how he works with Rudy either. He's not really a floor spacer, but everyone talks about his grit, his effort. I think that's going to fit in nicely with a super defensive-minded team. He's a high-volume scorer. But again, Ron, a lot of mouths to feed. Anthony Edwards has got to eat. Jaden McDaniels needs to get more touches. So is Julius Randle going to be able to do what Cat did and take a back seat? Is he going to be willing to give up the ball because he's a high usage player, needs the ball in his hands? He's going to have to make some sacrifices too. And he's in a year where he probably wants to do really well, hit free agency and get paid. So he's going to have his own personal motives. Will he be willing to set that aside? That's what fascinates me about this year. But I think the cap relief down the road is actually going to help their team building for sure around Ant.
Yeah, and the funny thing about this is, like, people are speculating all this stuff, like, what's his name? Jalen Brunson took a pay cut so he can get all of his boys back together. And I don't know if Julius Randle ever really fit, though, in what they wanted to do. And so now you get all those guys together, but now you add Cat, who needs the ball for the Knicks. So, like, how are those Knicks guys going to take to, like, having to feed Cat and get him some threes and, dealing with him taking, dumb shots? Can Cat handle, like, Minnesota has a tough media, but it's not tough. It's like candy cotton or cotton candy tough. New York's is like spikes and thorns on roses with like nails and concrete and broken glass. Like, when you make mistakes in New York, they will beat you down. They will wear you out. They will constantly bring it up. You will be on every talk show all week long. Like, we wanted Minnesota on the national news because we're like, look, they're one of the best teams in the NBA. And you guys are talking about the Lakers versus the Clippers. Now, Cat is getting what he's going to, he's in a big market. You're going to be out there where, like, the Mecca, as they call it, of basketball, is, being at the Garden, Spike Lee. Can Cat handle that? Because that's what people forget is, like, Jimmy Butler called him soft for a reason. Like, he didn't, they didn't mesh well together for a reason. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. Like, I'm excited though, Sam, because I want to see. I actually said this. Remember, I mean, you got to find it. Like, on the basketball show, I said, give me Julius Randle. I like the bully ball. That's my game. I'm a bully when I play basketball. I'm not anymore. I used to be when I was younger. But I like that, like banging and pushing, and like, you say something to me, I got something for you. We didn't have that. There wasn't that attitude here. Now that attitude walks on the court with Julius Randle. They know better. It's like hockey, Sam. That's your sport. When you have an enforcer that scares people, they leave your wings alone. They don't go after your wings. They're like, wait, if I go after his wing, he's going to come demolish me at some point in this game and doesn't care about it. He's on this team to beat me up for hurting their scores, for hurting their forwards. I know some of the terms. So, that's what I like about this move is you get a defenseman, I guess you would call it, in hockey. You get a guy that's willing to be a little bit more of an attitude in some games, because I think, like, the Dallas game, it got out of hand because there was nobody willing to, like, step up and just not punch, like, seriously punch, but, bang and get these bigs out the lane and, Derek Lively, like, get these guys away. And so that's what I am looking forward to with this, is like that attitude coming to this team and being a part. Kind of like the Vikings defense right now. The Vikings defense has an attitude of persona. That's sometimes what it takes. Like, we think about stars, Eric Kendricks, Anthony Barr. Like, we want those top draft pick stars on defense. Sometimes you need role players. Sometimes you need blue collar guys like Blake Cashman. Sometimes you need a Julius Randle. He was a first rounder, but he's still a blue collar guy in NBA terms. He's not a superstar. He's not Karl-Anthony Towns. He's a step down, but he's also a scorer. He can shoot. He has a mid range. And so I'm looking forward to it. But we got a short pause because we have to get to the Hanging Around Johnson segment. I'm going to be on campus, people. It's going to be magic. Snap my fingers. I'm going to be there. Got a little quick interview with my guy, Ethan Robinson. He had an interception. He's been having a great season too. He climbed the ladder a few times this season to get interception. And he's the newest Gophers DB transfer from Bucknell. So I got him coming up in the Hanging Around Johnson segment. But I want everybody to know our postcast, Gophers and Vikings, each weekend after every Gophers and Vikings game. So when you go to YouTube, people, hit subscribe. When you're on your phone, go to your YouTube account. Go to Locked On Sports Minnesota. Hit subscribe. That way you'll see the minute we go live, you can jump in the chat. You can throw questions at us. You can throw comments at us. We will get to the cool ones, but make sure you guys do that. We'll be back after a short pause. Well, now it's time for the Hanging Around Johnson segment. As I promised, I'm on campus with Gopher cornerback Ethan Robinson. Now, Ethan, for those that don't know, he transferred in from Bucknell University, and you guys know, I ran into him before the PJ Flex show and I'm like, man, let me look this guy up. And I look him up. First game I see him after that, man, you get the pick. So maybe it was me, man. Maybe I put that into you, man. But, as a former receiver here, man, I loved like going against the DBs in practice, man. So early on, going against Daniel Jackson, Christian Driver, man, what have you learned from going against some of the receivers early on here?
just footwork is everything. Feet before hands. Just learning how to be patient at the line of scrimmage. When you have quick, shifty guys like that can get in and out of their breaks, your patience at the line is everything. And just being able to match speed with speed and match routes is everything. So going up against guys like D-Jack, one of the best in the conference, Driver, who will be one of the best in the conference if not already, it's just great to get to go up against those guys in practice each and every day.
And when you think about you picking Minnesota, coming from Bucknell, man, like 56, 57,000 here in Minnesota, but you go to the big house, 100 plus thousand. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. My cousin actually is the safety for Michigan, number 7, Makari Page. Okay. So that's my cousin. So of course my cousins was oh, you know, we got you, we got you. I'm like, yeah, y'all won this one, but we should have won it. But walking into the big house, man, we talked before the show started that your biggest crowd was like 3K.
Yeah.
Going into the 100,000, man, what was that like?
I mean, it was great to be a part of that atmosphere. It's like it's everything you ever dream of growing up. Like nobody dreams about going to play FCS football, if I'm being real, but it's just the way the nature of the beast works, the way life works. But it was definitely a dream come true. And then just to be able to go out there and produce was just an even better feeling for me.
And when you look at Minnesota, I know you picked Minnesota for a reason, but when you think about Antoine Winfield, Tyler Newman, Benjamin St. Juice, I mean, you can go to defensive with Devondre Campbell, Blake Cashman now with the Vikings. There's a lot of Viking or Gophers defensive guys in the NFL. And when you look at specifically, like Justin Wiley's going to have a chance. But you, man, like, I mean, I'm 6'3". I was one of the bigger receivers in college football when I played, in the NFL draft when I played. You're almost my height, man, 6 feet. Like you're the prototypical corner they're looking for. So what have you thought about in that too? Like looking at the pedigree of Gopher football corners and DBs in the league, and then your ability to show like I'm 6 foot, I can play man with anybody.
I mean, that was a big reason why I came here. Just not even just DBs, just overall their defensive pedigree and their defensive legacy. They've always been a defensive school, and I feel like that resonates with the scouts as you see in practice. Like it's guys here all the time, especially during fall camp, and then just having that defensive back legacy, whether it's safety or corner, you're coming into great hands and people that have done it before and have produced it before. So that was just a part of my whole process when picking a school, and just to be able to come in here, get alongside guys like Wally who are going to have a great chance, probably definitely going to go, and just learn from them, pick their brain, and then go out there produce on the same plane and on the same field with them. It's just been amazing.
And you were part of probably, I mean, I know when I played here in Minnesota, we beat Penn State, we beat Ohio State. I had some big catches, some one-handed catches, some tips like over the top of a guy, some flips where people are like, how'd you make that catch? But I told people today when I was on TV earlier, Daniel Jackson's catch might be the best catch in Gopher football history. Yeah. It might be one of the best catches in college football history. I mean, I can think back to like Charles Woodson making the interception of silent one hand. I can think about Plaxico Burress making the one-handed catch. Like that was a ridiculous, because it was a blind catch almost. You know, when you guys saw that play happen, how ridiculous did you, like when you look, because I know at first when it happens, you're like, oh, and then you see the replay. Because I talked to D-Jack last night and he's like, man, I didn't even realize what I had done until I saw the replay. Like, how did you guys react?
I mean, personally, I was excited that he caught it. I mean, they reviewed it, but I knew he was in from my angle. I saw he was in. But in terms of just the catch, like that's every day for D-Jack. So like the catch, it's amazing. I'm not taking anything away from him, but that just speaks to him as a player. Like that's an everyday thing. Like he'll make some crazy catches in practice where you're just looking like, as a DB, you're looking like, bro, what am I gonna do better to stop that? And then you watch it back on film and you're like, great defense, better. Oh, so that's just D-Jack being D-Jack, man. One great catch, and he makes plays like that all the time.
And as a DB, when you see a receiver do something like that, man, how, like, because the Michigan guy felt like he did everything. He did get the pass interference, so it probably would have been moved up anyway. But as a DB, like, how do you move on from a play like that happening?
For me, it's just like a next play mindset. You got to kind of charge that one to the game. Like at the end of the day, they have scholarships too. They have 4 stars, they have 5 stars, they have this and that. They have speed, they have athleticism. So you could be in a perfect position. They still might make a play. You just got to charge that one to the game and move on to the next one, and just make sure that you do everything in your power for the next play to not allow that to happen.
And in your career, I think I saw you like one of your biggest seasons was last year. I think three interceptions. You're at 2 already. What is it about you in attacking the ball and saying, like, because I know the one you climbed the ladder earlier in the season at home, and then this one, same thing, right place, right time, but you made the catch. Because a lot of DBs, people always say they're receivers, they couldn't catch. So you being able to attack the ball, man, what do you attribute that to?
Just growing up playing a lot of different sports. I mean, since I was 5, I played basketball, football, baseball, and really the hand-eye coordination came a lot from baseball. Because when I was younger, I usually struggled to hit, but then as I got older, just seeing the ball, getting that hand-eye coordination with a smaller ball, tracking the ball center field, shortstop, things like that, And then once you play so many sports, like a lot of that stuff, people don't really realize it, but a lot of it translates over. So by the time I got to college and kind of honed in on one sport, all my skills from every sport just culminated into one.
Wait, but are you a hooper though, or did you just hoop? Like,
No, I'm a hooper for sure. I'm from New York. We hoop down there.
because like I know Darius Butler, I played basketball with him out in New York. We went out there we were at Fordham actually University getting our masters, and so me and D Butt went to hoop over at the little gym, and then but I played against like Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes. I watched those guys, like they are trash. Like some DBs are trash, man. So to be a DB that can hoop, I think that speaks probably to your athleticism. But heading into this USC game, man, like it's 6:30 p.m. It's gonna be rocking. I'm gonna be on the sideline, so I'll make sure I catch you guys when I get down there. But when you think about that atmosphere at home, striped out stadium, one of the most like electric passing offenses. Miller Moss is one of the top quarterbacks right now in the NCAA, and the whole world's gonna be watching you guys. How do you say, you know what, this is my chance again to make a play? But at the end of the day, I have to trust Jack Henderson, so on and so forth, everybody, to be in the right place at the right time. So I'm not being too greedy.
Yeah, I mean, personally, like this is what you want. This is the atmosphere and the times and the prime time. You want all of that in the game. You want all eyes on you. But just in terms of the game, like I go into every game saying, just let the plays come to you. Do your job, play football. If your job's the man one. If your job's to play the third, play the third. If your job's to play the flat, play the flat. Do your job. The plays will come. Like when you have guys up front that's going to go get the passer like Ant, J-Lo, and then you have guys at backer between Hendo at nickel and then our three backers, Cody, Mav, Dev. Like when you have guys like that at every position, you really shouldn't feel a need to do everybody else's job. Just stick in your role, do what you need to do, and let the plays come to you.
Well, you heard it there from Ethan Robinson. We got the Gophers 6:30 p.m. Make sure you guys check that out. I'm Ron Johnson. This is Ethan Robinson. One former Gopher, one current Gopher. And make sure you guys stay tuned because we got the Daily 3 coming up next. We're going to spend about a minute today on each question because we went a little long on the Cat. We know Cat got traded, so we had to talk about that today. And then, of course, Aaron Rodgers and the Vikings headed to London. That's going to be an early kickoff as well. So coming up next, we got the Daily 3. Woo, that was magic. I'm back home from campus. Now it's time for the Daily 3. It's 3 questions. We spend about a minute each today. Take it away, Sam.
Well, good stuff with Ethan Robinson. This is a 3-pack of Gophers questions because we had so much to discuss. We haven't gotten to the robbery at Ann Arbor. So I'm going to ask you, Ron, is there any comfort in this moral victory in the loss to Michigan because of a bad call on an onside kick?
So there's a little bit of comfort. There's not much because I'm not one for moral victories. You lose, you lose. You win, you win. If you win by, like PJ Fleck always said, if you win by 100 or you win by 1, it's the same. If you lose by 100, you lose by 1, it's the same. Now, is the outside influence different? Like, do people feel differently about you from the outside? That's kind of PJ's thing. And that is true. If you lose by 100, people are like, you suck. You suck. If you lose by 1, it's like, oh, you almost had it, man. You guys are good. You guys are good. If you blow somebody out, man, you guys are great, man. And if you win by 1, woo, that was a nail biter, but you guys pulled it out. Like it's the outside people. But he said within, we know who we are. A loss is a loss and a win is a win. They're both 1 point in the column either way. It doesn't matter what you lost by or what you won by. So is there some moral victory in this? For the team, here, did I say? Yes, because you almost beat a really good team and it came down to an onside kick. Michigan barely beat USC. USC is walking into your building. So I wouldn't say moral victory. What I would call it is a wake-up victory. We are good. We just have to play all phases of the game. Those turnovers, pump block, interception, fumble, you take those away. They gave the Michigan team 2 chances at a short field, and they scored on it. You take those away, the Gophers win probably 24-14 because Michigan wasn't doing much with that offense. That quarterback is not good. I think he threw for under 60 yards or something, or under 70 yards. It's not good. He can run. He's a really good athlete. Orji, I'm talking about Alex Orji, but he can't throw. So I think Minnesota would have had that game without the turnovers, and that's the name of the game. You don't turn the ball over, you win.
Yeah. Did you see that the Big Ten has already changed the rules about how refs are placed during onside kicks? They're like, oh, we want the refs standing right on the line now so they can see these things. Well, thanks. That does a lot for us. That's classic Minnesota to be the victim of something that gets changed right after. So Daniel Jackson's touchdown catch, though, a highlight that's getting circulated everywhere. It's like an optical illusion. I don't know how he caught it. Ron, was this the best catch of his career, or was it still the Nebraska touchdown last year to tie that game? Do you remember that
this
one?
one for sure. This one for sure.
Yeah.
The Nebraska one was what receivers should do, which is like Justin Jefferson. We see him do that every week. Catch it on the sideline, drag those toes. He just did it against the Packers. He dragged this, he caught it. He tap, got that 1 foot in. The ref said he didn't catch it. Then they watched the film, and like in 2 seconds, they're like, oh, wait, no, he caught that. This dude's good. And so, like, even the Packers, like if you watch the Packers sideline, even they didn't try to fight it. They're like, yeah, that's a catch. Oh, these refs are stupid. But Daniel Jackson, I talked to him last night because I was down there on campus, and I spoke to all the athletes last night. It was like over 600 athletes, and I got to share my story about, where I'm at now after leaving football and so on and so forth to all the athletes. And it was fun. And I saw Daniel, I was like, man, how did you? And he literally said, he's like, I saw the ball because it came from this way behind him. Like he's like this, and it's coming this way. And I was like, how'd you see? He's like, I saw it for a second. And then he said, as I'm getting pulled, he said, I lost it. And he said, when I lost it, my head turned, and all of a sudden I felt the ball. But he said he didn't know he had the ball fully. Like he didn't know what he had. He just kept spinning, and the force of the ball coming and the spin, it just kept the ball in orbit around him. And so then as he turned, he just realized like, oh, wait, I got the ball. So, yeah, it is the best catch of his career. It might be one of the best catches, if not the best catch in Gopher football history. I know I had a great one against Ohio State where I flipped my head. I had the tip against Nate Clemens as well when he hit me, and I still tipped the ball to myself. I got the Penn State one. I got the Iowa one in the corner where I toe tapped. I got the Purdue one where I reached over the guy. But this here, one-handed coming through, I think it's the best catch in Gopher football history. Like we can look at Chris Hartman-Bells. We can look at Rashad Bateman, Tyler Johnson, Eric Decker. This might be the best catch in Gopher football history. Like that was crazy. But I don't know. We'll have to go maybe do a Friday show or just another Ron Johnson show of the greatest catches and get maybe 3 or 4 receivers on this show at the same time.
Yeah, that was sick. A shame that it came in a loss. And they play USC on Saturday. They haven't played USC since the Jerry Kill days, back when the team was rebuilding. I believe they lost twice to USC in back-to-back years. So it's been a while. Ron, do the Gophers stand a chance against a pass-happy USC offense?
Yeah, they do because of that. Pass happy. I think the Gophers defense, as we talked about, we met with Ethan Robinson. He's a ball hawk. They also have a couple other guys. Hopefully they can get Justin Wiley back. We'll see for that game. But, yeah, I think they do have a chance. Michigan had them. And then USC just kind of like gave it up at the end. Michigan started running the ball well, had a couple little passes here and there. I think they do because it's a different mindset. The Gopher football team defensively is aggressive. They're big. They're strong. And if they can get you in third, like if they can win first and second down, the third down is harder to get to. And the Gophers defense has been one of the best up until this past game. There was a lot of points put up, but they have been one of the best defenses up until this point. 2 shutouts this season. So yes, I think they can win against a pass happy team like that. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, all these matchups, you got to get up for them. I mean, and I know you've lost 2 in a row, 2 tough ones, but it's USC. I mean, the fans are going to show up. This is a big name program. You're trying to establish yourself in this new Big Ten and say, hey, we're not a doormat. Like, we're actually going to compete with these new Pac-12 teams. I think you got to show up big and try to put a good performance together. I would lean USC, but I think the Gophers have enough defense to stay in this game. Comes down to Brosmer.
Yeah, I mean, because when you look at right now, Miller Moss is having, he's having a good season. 65% completions, almost 1,200 yards already, 8 touchdowns. And so this is a team that's willing to throw the ball. You look at the receivers, Jacoby Lane is one of his top guys right now, 221 yards, 4 touchdowns. Here's the key. Not a lot of other receivers have touchdowns. He has 2 from Deuce Robinson, but after the receivers wise, the guys with the most catches, it's 4 other guys with no touchdowns. So you kind of got to key in on Jacoby Lane. Because that seems to be the guy he's been going to the most in the beginning of the end zone. So that's where a guy like Ethan Robinson comes in. That's where you put the safety over the top. And so we'll see how the Gophers handle it. It's going to be dark. It's going to be light. I mean, it's going to be the what is it called? The stripe out game. But it's going to be dark. Lights are going to be bright. Fans are going to be there. I'm excited about it. But I want everybody to have a great week, people, because it's going to be a lot of football. We got an early Vikings Jets kickoff. So that means get up. Get your breakfast, some bacon, some sausage, whatever you do. Sit back and watch the Vikings, but make sure you guys check us out on the postcast. It's going to be earlier this week. So make sure you guys check out that. Subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota on YouTube so you can see every alert. But I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom. Thank you guys. Have a great week.